The movie begins in modern-day Taiwan, where we see an exchange student named Lucy and her boyfriend, Richard, outside a hotel. After a night of partying, Lucy feels hungover and wishes to return home, but Richard insists that he requires her assistance. Basically, he needs her to deliver a briefcase to his boss, Mr. Zhang, who is inside the hotel. But Lucy has only known Richard for a week and has no idea what he does, so she gets scared and refuses to do it. She asks him what is inside, but Richard claims it is only paperwork and offers her $500 for the work. However, as she continues refusing his request, Richard handcuffs her wrist to the briefcase handle and informs her that the key is with Mr. Zhang. Having no other choice, Lucy enters the building and hesitantly requests to speak with Mr. Zhang. And a few moments later, some Korean henchmen arrive there and instantly shoot Richard before taking Lucy with them. Lucy is horrified and begs the men to let her go, but they ignore her protests and take her to a room. And upon entering, Lucy sees mutilated bodies on the floor, prompting her to puke in disgust. Just then, the criminal boss, Zhang, enters the room, looking like he has just killed someone. They then sit down to talk, and Zhang calls a hotel staff to translate his words to Lucy. Now, Zhang gives her a code and instructs her to open the briefcase. Lucy grudgingly opens the case and finds 4 bags of blue powdered crystals. Zhang is pleased to see the bags and orders his guys to bring him a drugged-up man. He then compels the man to snort the drug, which causes the poor guy to become crazy and begin behaving erratically. But just then, Zhang shoots the man and offers Lucy the job of working for him. Lucy instantly declines his offer, and in response, she is hit in the face, causing her to be unconscious. Later, Lucy awakens in a hotel room with a severe ache in her stomach. Soon, some guards lead her to another room, where a British doctor informs her that a pouch of drugs called CPH4 has been inserted in her lower stomach. The henchmen then bring in 3 more men with similar stitches to her. It is revealed that the 4 of them will be transferred to various places in Europe, where the pouches will be removed in a separate procedure. Furthermore, the victims are threatened that if they ignore the orders, their families would be slaughtered. Now, while Lucy tries to calm herself down, a rag is removed from her head, and she finds herself chained in a cell. A guy approaches her and tries to slide his hands into her top, but when Lucy retaliates, the man gets enraged and smacks her to the ground, while repeatedly kicking her stomach. This tears the bag of drugs in her stomach, allowing the powder to enter Lucy's system. Her eyes then turn completely blue, and she starts to fly in the air while having no clue of what's going on with her. In the meantime, a scientist named Professor Norman is giving a lecture in front of hundreds of people on his brain capacity studies. According to his findings, human beings barely use 10% of their brain capability. The only living things that use their brains more than humans are dolphins, who can use 20% of their brain capacity to track their location and communicate using sonar waves. He claims that if people could go above the recommended 10% brain capacity, the brain would be able to submit to immortality or reproduction. Essentially, if the subject dislikes their surroundings, they will choose immortality and relocate. But if they enjoy their surroundings, they will be more likely to reproduce. Hearing this, one student asks Norman what would happen if the human brain uses 100% of its capacity, to which the professor answers that he has no clue. Later, Lucy is shown sitting calmly in her cell, contemplating her thoughts. Moments later, her captor comes in to check in on her, and she tries to seduce him by spreading her legs. However, as he gets closer, she grabs his belt and throws him over. She then pushes the table over to retrieve the gun. Now, Lucy manages to free herself and shoots the other goons as they're eating. Just then, she is shot in the shoulder, that she takes the bullet out without feeling any pain. And before Lucy flees the scene, she eats all of the thug's food. Once she gets outside, she finds 2 cab drivers and immediately shoots one in the leg, and has the other one drive her to the hospital. On the way, Lucy realizes she can hear people's voices and sense everything. She quickly realizes that she can now understand other languages as well. Moments later, she arrives at the hospital and gets inside with a gun in her hand. Then, Lucy storms into a surgical room, where doctors are performing surgery on a man. She examines the patient's x-rays and realizes she fully understands them. She then pulls the patient off the operating table and claims that the tumor is on his spine, so he can't be saved. After that, Lucy threatens the doctors to operate on her and remove the powder bag. However, she refuses anesthesia because she doesn't feel any pain. And while the doctor is conducting the surgery, Lucy uses the surgeon's phone to contact her mother. She tells her mother that she can feel everything: the air, the blood in her veins, the heat leaving her body, and that she can even reach the deepest part of her memories, of when she was less than a year old. Also, Lucy tells her mother that she loves her more than anything and hangs up the phone. At this time, the doctors manage to extract the bag of drugs and discover that there are around 500 grams of CPH4 remaining, while the rest is already in her system. The doctor claims that pregnant women create natural CPH4 in trace amounts throughout the 6th week of pregnancy to give energy to the developing babies. So he's astonished Lucy has made it this far. With her newly enhanced physical and mental powers, Lucy returns to Jang's hotel, where he is in the middle of having tattoos and facials. She quickly murders his bodyguards and attacks him by stabbing knives into both of his hands. Then, Lucy reads his mind and sees where the other 3 drug mules are going, simply by visualizing images of their plane tickets. And after extracting this information, Lucy walks away from the scene, while Jang continues to scream in pain. Afterward, Lucy returns to her apartment, and her roommate, Caroline, greets her with a hug. This makes Lucy feel her entire biological system and the illnesses she has. She then gets a computer and starts researching at lightning speed. Eventually, Lucy learns about Professor Norman and resolves to contact him. She informs him that she has read all of his papers, but the professor chuckles, stating that there are so many that he can't remember them all. However, Lucy projects herself into the television screen in front of the professor and informs him that all of the theories regarding the brain's capability are correct. She continues to describe her feelings and experiences now that she has attained 20% brain capacity. Lucy believes she will die in less than 24 hours, so she prepares to meet with him in 12 hours in Paris. And before leaving, Lucy writes up a prescription for Caroline, advising her that her liver and kidneys are deteriorating and that she has to change her lifestyle. Next, as Lucy walks to the airport, the news of her shooting various people has become viral, so she changes her appearance. Then, she calls the police captain named Pierre Del Rito and informs him of Jang's drug network, as well as the identities of the drug smugglers. With this knowledge, the local police apprehend all of the drug mules, and Pierre instructs his men to secure them in Paris. During the flight, Lucy continues her research by working on 2 computers at once and at a crazy speed. When the flight attendant reminds her to switch off her laptops, Lucy starts bleeding from her nose and requests a glass of champagne. A different flight attendant gives her the drink, and as soon as Lucy takes a sip, she notices that her teeth are falling out and her cells are disintegrating, since alcohol is technically poison. Then her skin begins to dissolve in front of the passengers and flight attendants. Instantly, Lucy dashes to the restroom, where her fingers begin to disintegrate and her face begins to melt. She quickly pulls out the remainder of the CPH4 and snorts it, which returns her to normalcy, but she soon passes out. A while later, Lucy awakens in a hospital room, where Pierre and many other cops and doctors are waiting for her. She quickly dresses and exits the room, only to be surrounded by armed officers. Lucy knocks them all out with a single movement of her hand, except for Pierre, who has all of his bullets fall from his gun. When Lucy inquires about the remaining drug smugglers, the officer informs her that they are in a hospital in Paris, where the packets are being removed. Surprisingly, Pierre agrees to help Lucy, and the 2 go to the hospital. But on the way, Lucy discovers that Jang's men are also there to get the drugs. They are already in the hospital, so she speeds through the streets of Paris to get to them. Later at the hospital, Jang's henchmen are preparing to depart with the powder. When they spot Lucy, immediately the men point their weapons at her. But just then, with her brain functioning at 60% capacity, Lucy starts to make the gang members explode in the air without physical contact. And after neutralizing all of them, she gathers the 3 packets of powder and goes directly to Professor Norman's laboratory. Upon reaching there, Lucy tells everyone about her neural insights, but a doctor does not trust her and demands that she prove her capabilities to him. Then, Lucy places her hand on his shoulder and informs him of his daughter's death, which no one knew about except him. Seeing this, everyone gets shocked, and she further tells them about algebra and science. Lucy claims that all the math equations that they have been taught are incorrect, and the only way to find out something in this world is via time. During this time, Jang and his men approach the area and begin firing. Lucy gives the remaining CPH4 to the professors, who synthesize it into a liquid substance that enters her bloodstream. As a result, her brain capacity goes to 70%, and her body transforms into a black material that spreads through computers and other electrical devices in the lab. This provides Lucy with more energy from the matter, giving her extraordinary abilities. Now, as her brain function improves, Lucy manipulates matter in such a way that she appears to wipe everything in the room, leaving the professors standing in white space, and in a matter of seconds, she starts constructing some type of new age supercomputer in front of their eyes. Meanwhile, as Jang's men are being shot down by the police, he instructs his henchmen to do something extraordinary. The henchman then fires a rocket launcher into the room, propelling Lucy hundreds of kilometers to Times Square. And as soon as this happens, Lucy begins to travel through time, now going back thousands of years. She initially encounters a tribal community, then travels further back in time and meets the dinosaur. She then travels back in time to meet the world's first human, who is a gorilla. She even travels back to the beginning of time to observe the Big Bang. After consuming all of the drugs, Lucy had grown so powerful that she could now see the past, present, and future simultaneously. However, shortly after, Jang walks inside the lab, cautiously pointing his rifle toward Lucy's head. He fires his weapon, but by this time, Lucy has attained 100% of her brain capacity and instantly vanishes, disappearing into the space-time continuum. While Jang fires his rifle at nothing, Lucy merely leaves her clothes and the black supercomputer behind. Frustrated by this, Jang threatens to kill the physicians to get some answers, but Pierre arrives just in time and shoots him first. Soon, the dark matter in the room vanishes and transforms into a flash drive in Norman's hands, expanding and finishing his study. The supercomputer then disintegrates and vanishes. When Pierre asks Norman about Lucy's whereabouts, he receives a message on his phone that states, "I'm everywhere." Finally, the film concludes with Lucy's voice emphasizing that this is what life can accomplish and what must be done with it. The end.